Let me paint this picture for you. You're a landlord. Then there's that one liability claim or that one unexpected shutdown at your rental property, which wiped out months of rental income fast. As we know, you can't get a month back. And the problem is, a lot of landlords find out too late that collecting rent and protecting rental income are two very different things. Because here's the truth. Most landlords learn too late that owning rental property, having investment property, while growing your landlord portfolio is not just about the building. The true landlord concerns are landlord liability, tenant risk, property damage, and protecting cash flow. And if that rental property becomes unlivable after a covered loss, the rent can stop immediately as the mortgage, taxes, and expenses keep coming due each month. That is why every landlord needs to understand landlord liability coverage and loss of rental income coverage. Stay with me until the end, because this is where many property owners discover major coverage gaps. So let's get started. Now that we've set the stage, let's break down what this really means for you as a landlord. If you own rental property, whether it is a single-family rental, duplex, or a portfolio of rental properties, you are operating a business. That means landlord insurance or a dwelling policy is required, and a standard homeowner's policy does not apply in this case. And two of the most important coverages in any landlord insurance policy are landlord liability insurance, loss of rental income insurance. In simple terms, one protects you from lawsuits and liability claims, and the other protects your rental income and cash flow. Let's start with the liability side. So what is landlord liability coverage? Before we talk about income protection, you need to understand your liability exposure as a landlord. Landlord liability coverage protects you if someone is injured or your property is damaged and you are held legally responsible. This includes situations like a tenant slipping on ice, a guest falling on unsafe stairs, a broken handrail causing injury, a hazardous condition on the property. These situations can lead to medical bills, legal fees, lawsuits, and settlements. Landlord liability insurance is designed to protect your financial position when these claims happen. This is one of the most important parts of any investment property insurance policy. But there is another layer that many landlords overlook. Now that you understand what landlord liability insurance does, let's talk about what landlord liability does not do. Landlord liability coverage does not automatically protect you in every situation. And as I move forward with this, I understand that landlords want to save money, but don't be that AKA slumlord by neglecting the property with deferred maintenance and having other known hazards that create serious claim issues. Look at it like this. If a landlord ignores repairs or fails to maintain the property, that can increase liability exposure. This is why risk management, property maintenance, and proper documentation matter. Insurance is a financial backstop. However, it is not a replacement for good property management. So don't fall into the slumlord category. And this leads into one of the most misunderstood areas in landlord insurance. Making sure we understand landlord liability insurance versus renter's liability insurance. Now let's clarify something that every landlord needs to understand. Landlord liability and renter's liability are not the same thing. Landlord liability covers injuries or damage caused by the property itself. Renter's liability covers damage or injury caused by the tenant's actions. Here are a few examples. A tenant leaves a candle burning and starts a fire. A bathtub overflows and damages another unit. A tenant's dog bites someone. Those are tenant-caused incidents. Now here's where it becomes important. If that tenant does not have renter's insurance with liability coverage, the claim often comes back to you. First, even if you are not at fault, you may still be pulled into the claim process. That is why I recommend requiring renter's insurance for all tenants, that you as a landlord enforce that it be placed on the property. A renter's insurance policy with personal liability coverage creates frontline protection for you as a landlord. It helps shift tenant-related risk away from your landlord policy. So here's a simple breakdown. Landlord insurance protects the building and the landlord liability. Renter's insurance protects the tenant's belongings and tenant liability. Both are critical, but if your tenant does not have renter's insurance, just keep in mind the insurance responsibility is on you, the landlord. Now let's move to the income side of the equation. What is loss of rental income? Now that we've covered liability, let's talk about protecting your rental income. Loss of rent coverage, also known as fair rental value, helps replace lost rent when a covered claim makes the property unlivable. Examples include fire damage, storm damage, water damage from a burst pipe. If the loss is covered under your rental property insurance policy, this coverage helps reimburse lost rental income during repairs. This is critical because your financial obligations do not stop. Like I stated in the intro, mortgage payments, property taxes, and insurance premiums will all continue. The bottom line is that this coverage protects your cash flow during downtime. Now, allow me to share a real-life scenario. A landlord owns a rental home with a reliable tenant. Then, during the spring, a storm damaged the roof, allowing water into the home. the property becomes unlivable, and the tenant had to move out during the repairs. In this case, the landlord is facing repair costs and zero rental income, but the mortgage is still due. With loss of rental income coverage, the policy helps replace the lost rent during the repair period. That is what keeps a temporary disruption from becoming a long-term financial problem. Now let's talk about what you should review in your policy right now. Now that you understand the risk, here is what you should review. Have a proper landlord insurance policy or dwelling policy. Review your liability limits for adequate protection. Confirm loss of rental income coverage is included. Understand covered perils and exclusions. Consider umbrella insurance for additional liability protection. Ensure your policy reflects how the property is used, meaning, is the property a long-term rental or short-term rental like an Airbnb? This is especially important for landlords building a rental portfolio or holding property in an LLC or trust. And this leads into the biggest mistakes I see. Now, let's talk about common landlord insurance mistakes. Choosing the cheapest policy without understanding coverage. Ignoring rental income protection. Not requiring tenants to carry renters insurance. Failing to update policies after any property situation changes. Underestimating dwelling cover and liability exposure. These mistakes can create serious financial setbacks. And when you are building a real estate portfolio, one bad claim can impact multiple properties. So, allow me to share a few thoughts. Rental property insurance is not just about protecting a building. It is about protecting landlord liability, tenant risk, and rental income. Landlord liability protects you from lawsuits and injury claims. Tenant liability should be handled through renter's insurance. Loss of rental income protects your cash flow. If you own rental property, now is the time to review your coverage and close any gaps. Now, if this content was helpful, please place a thumbs up in the comment section. This really helps with engagement and assists with pushing out this video to others. Also, word of mouth is good too. So please share this content with someone who may benefit from this topic. Then check out my video library. I have information on home, auto, business, specialty insurance, and retirement. With all this being said, please subscribe to my channel and help me get to 1,000 subscribers. But don't stop here. Check out my next video on your left for more insurance and financial tips. As I like to say, call Jay today.